The resolutions before the Assembly today are beyond logic. They defy all concepts of morality and the evidence we have laid before you for years. By voting for these resolutions, you are not voting to protect humanitarian values, but to protect an organization that has become a haven for terror. You vote for the resolutions knowing the truth, knowing that UNRWA is not a neutral actor, but an entity hopelessly infiltrated by Hamas, knowing that its facilities have been used to store weapons, its schools to indoctrinate children with hatred, and its staff to aid and act as terrorists. The vote today is not a vote for compassion. It is a vote for complicity. As if this betrayal is not enough, you pushed for a resolution that failed to even condition a ceasefire on the release of the 100 hostages still held by Hamas. By demanding a ceasefire today without addressing the hostages, this Assembly will once again side with those who weaponize human suffering. It will send a message that the lives of innocent Israelis, including children, are not worth your consideration. This is not diplomacy. It is appeasement. It is enabling terror and abandoning the innocent. Today, I sit here with evidence in hand. Letters upon letters that Israel has written to UNRWA over the years, each one a warning, each one a clear call to action, and yet nothing was done. Commissioner General Lazzarini complains of reputational damage of so-called disinformation campaign against UNRWA by Israel. I would like to ask Mr. Lazzarini, where were your complaints when Hamas built tunnels under your schools? Where was your outrage when murderers you employed used those schools as terror bases? Where was your accountability when we sent you these letters exposing terrorists on your payroll? In my hand is a letter written in November 2003, 21 years ago, in which we warned about terrorists hiding, meeting, and even training in UNRWA facilities. UNRWA did not act. In 2011, 13 years ago, we warned UNRWA about Hamas operatives working in UNRWA schools. We even provided the names and IDs of 10 Hamas terrorists employed by UNRWA. Nothing was done. In fact, the last name on this list, Naji Salam Abu Aziz, was an UNRWA principal, believe it or not. Of course, no action was taken against him. In the meantime, this year, he allowed his school to be used as a launch pad for anti-tank missiles by his fellow Hamas terrorists. In 2017, a Hamas tunnel was discovered beneath an UNRWA school led by a principal who publicly pledged allegiance to Hamas. You again remained silent. Just this July, we provided the names of over 100 UNRWA employees who were members of Hamas or Palestinian Islamic Jihad. Again, nothing was done. These are only a few examples out of many over the decades. UNRWA's inaction speaks volumes. They did not act when we presented evidence. They did not act when Hamas turned schools into ammunition stores. They did not act when the lives of innocent Israelis were at stake. Now, The New York Times has recently confirmed what we have long known, and I urge you all to read this article in the New York Times. Hamas has infiltrated UNRWA at every level. It is simply a documented fact. To Hamas, UNRWA schools are, and I quote from Hamas's own documents, they call it the best obstacles to shield their terror operations. Gazan residents themselves have admitted to the New York Times that it is a, quote, open secret that Hamas operatives work in UNRWA schools, some even carrying Kalashnikovs after class instead of textbooks. Yet, this assembly rewards such complicity with continued funding and unwavering support. And now it seeks to demand a ceasefire without conditioning the release of the hostages still suffering in Hamas's dungeons. You will have abandoned them, you will have ignored their families, you will have emboldened their captures. To stand by UNRWA today is to stand by Hamas. The same Hamas that orchestrated the October 7 massacre, that butchered over 1,200 innocent people, and that still holds 100 hostages. To demand a ceasefire while ignoring these hostages is to surrender to terror. Distinguished colleagues, a future for Gaza must be one without Hamas, but it must also be one without UNRWA. Without its complicity, aid could flow freely, schools could teach peace instead of hatred, and the people of Gaza could finally begin to rebuild. This assembly has a choice today: to confront terror and its enablers, or to appease them. If you choose to stand by UNRWA and abandon the hostages, you will have chosen appeasement. History will not forget this choice, and neither will we. Thank you, Mr. President.